What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Game Room Podcast. This is episode 9. I'm your host, Rome, alongside producer Jeff, my co-host tonight, Jeffrey Vegas. How are you doing tonight, Jeff?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Awesome, awesome. We have a great show lined up for you guys tonight, man. Sony was at CES. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Some huge Microsoft news, a rumor coming up about a possible showcase. We'll have to see what's going on with that. And then the topic of the show, I'm going to talk about what I played last year because, I do some really weird stuff and I keep a log of my games. So I was talking to Forrest last week, and he was like, "Oh, this would be a great topic. You should totally do this." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll do this as a topic." But unfortunately, Forrest is currently sick. Get well soon. So once again, Jeff is sitting in the co-host chair tonight. Let's get into it, Jeff. Let's start off with our first headline tonight. Um, Over 300 Bethesda workers have formed Microsoft's first ever union. So basically, this comes from Windows Central, just 3 days into the new year, because obviously this happened last week. There's now a union of workers at Microsoft owned ZeniMax Media. Over 300 Bethesda Softworks employees successfully unionized after announcing their plan back in 2022, with the supermajority choosing to sign a union card or go through special terminals set up for the purpose of voting in a press release. In a press release, the Communication Workers of America noted that per its stated principles, Microsoft voluntarily recognized the union. The quote is, "Before us is an opportunity to make big changes and bring equity to the video game industry. We want to put an end to sudden periods of crunch, unfair pay, and lack of growth opportunities within the companies. Our union will push for truly competitive pay, better communication between management and workers, a clear path for those that want to progress their career, and more," said Victoria Banos, senior QA audio tester in Hunt Valley, Maryland. So Jeff, I know that you don't always keep the biggest, most tabs on the video game industry. This is actually pretty big news. In the video game industry, unions have been pretty much fought against, pretty drastically, and it's led to some really bad quality of life of these game developers. They're forced to crunch and work mad overtime. They're randomly just let go, laid off whenever a publisher is done with them, just to save a little bit of money. Just all around, being game developers hard in terms of the shit that the video game industry itself gives them to deal with. And
Yeah.
so to see Microsoft kind of come out and really be this white knight leading the way to unionization. I mean, again, a few weeks ago we talked about Activision Blizzard trying to shut down unions. So it's just, again, it's just such a refreshing change of pace to see one of the leaders in the video game industry really kind of championing this. And they've even put out some ads over the past weekend, billboards and stuff. And I believe it was Washington. Like they're very open and public about the fact, like, hey, we are all about unions. Let's get this going. It's what the video game industry needs to protect its developers and make sure they're taken care of. And I think this is great news for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good news when you hear that a certain, I forget the word. I want to say like genre of working, you know what I mean? That's genre is the only thing I could think of, and we're talking about gaming here, but yeah, whenever unionization happens, it's usually a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Next up, it is time for. So this story was going to be one that I was going to have fun with Forrest, because last week I did a lot of kind of misleads for the news articles, if you remember. This one is Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition investigation. There's an update from the UK's CMA, but it's not a good one. They are extending their investigation due to the complexity of the acquisition. Um, while we saw Chile join Brazil and Saudi Arabia in approving the deal, it looks like UK regulators need additional time to conduct their ongoing investigation. According to the Competition and Markets Authorities, the CMA, updated their timetable. The final report will be published by April 26th instead of the original March 1st deadline. Um, it's a tumultuous time for Microsoft's plans to acquire Activision Blizzard, with many complications hanging on the likes of Modern Warfare 2 and whether Microsoft's ownership of one of the best Xbox first-person shooter franchises would be anti-competitive. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission has moved to block the deal, to which Activision Blizzard accused the regulator of being blinded by complaints from competitors. As reported by GameIndustry.biz, the extension has been granted due to the investigation's complexity and larger volume of evidence, as well as main party and third party submissions. Although the deadline has been moved, those producing the report expect to complete the inquiry as soon as possible and in advance of this date. Looking at the recently published timetable, February will see the CMA notify the parties involved of its provisional findings and, if required, offer possible remedies to its findings. This will be followed by outstanding hearings in March, after which the party conducting the investigation will publish its final report on whether or not to approve the deal by April 26th. Jeff, I cannot wait until we're no longer talking about the CMA here on the Game Room podcast. It's been a frustrating story. Obviously, it just keeps going, and obviously this is just the nature of things. But hopefully the CMA's delay does not affect the deal. Now, keep in mind, Microsoft and Activision need to close the deal by June. Doge can play no games because no thumbs. What up, Doge? But yeah, it's oh man, it's just I don't think it's going to affect the deal. I still feel really confident about the deal going through, regardless. I think that a lot of these regulators are taking pressure from complaints of competitors, just to try to halt the deal and do whatever they can to get in the way of the deal. But ultimately, I think that a lot of this is going to find that it's not an issue.
Yeah, I agree.
I know. Hopefully, again, I'm excited for for June, for just everything, for this to be behind us. I can't wait till we actually get to start talking about Activision's games and not the acquisition.
Exactly.
But we'll get there. We just, just gotta wait it out. But moving on into actual games, System Shock's remake gets a March 2023 release window. The long in development remake of System Shock will finally be released this March. This news comes by the way of a Kickstarter update from developer Night Drive Studios, which states the team has picked a few last things to share before our quickly approaching launch window of March 2023. This remake, which is set to hit PS5, Xbox Series consoles, PS4, Xbox One, and PC, has had a 2023 release year attached to it for a minute now, but this new Kickstarter update points attention to the game's Steam page, which now features a March 2023 release window. Now, Jeff, did you ever get the chance to play the original System Shock?
I have not.
It was a pretty cult classic game that I have known about for years, but have just never gotten around to playing the original. So getting a remake, this is something that definitely interests me. I would really love to get into it. Considered a pretty, again, like a cult classic kind of game.
Okay.
Right. So Starfield, Jeff, Starfield has been, it's currently undergoing the testing phase where they have all the, the Q&A testers doing their thing. And according to Game On Daily, Starfield's testers say that the game is more ambitious than they expected. That the game is just all around pretty damn huge. This is really good news. A lot of people were very concerned when they first showed off the game, or the last time they showed off the game, excuse me, and they showed that there was like 1,000 planets you could go to. But this seems to be going in the right direction. I'm very excited for Starfield, as I believe you picked it as your number 2 most anticipated.
Oh man, when I saw the 1,000 planets thing, I almost lost my mind.
According to Colt Eastwood, Starfield is bigger than anything seen in Skyrim and Fallout. It takes everything the studio did with these 2 games and considerably expands upon them. Claims to have spoken to a channel of playtesters who have been closely involved with the game, and he's hearing great things about it. Based on what he's heard, Bethesda has nailed the sense of scale. Colt Eastwood said that he doesn't intend on overselling Starfield to fans, but all he's been hearing are positive impressions from the people he's spoken to, some of whom he claimed were pessimistic about the game originally. Previously, a support page for Starfield was launched on Bethesda's official site. It was updated in January, saying that the game was coming in the first half of 2023. Um, yeah, man, I'm so excited for Starfield. I can't wait to play it. Like I said, it was number 3 on my list, but it was a close 3. It could have been 2. Um, but man, this is going to be such a great game, and I'm so excited for Starfield.
Yeah, my only hope for it is that it's not boring 90% of the time, and then a couple minutes out of the day you get to fight some stuff. Like that's my only concern so far, but I doubt it. I'm sure as these playtesters are playing, they're like, can we get something to do? You know what I mean? So I'm sure it's not I don't know what to say there.
I gotcha. I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah,
All right, moving on. Neil Druckmann, on the possibility of The Last of Us Part 3, he says, I think there's more story to tell. Following comes from IGN. While The Last of Us fans are currently setting their sights on the upcoming HBO show and multiplayer title, Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann isn't ruling out the possibility of The Last of Us Part 3. Speaking to THR ahead of The Last of Us show's premiere in 2 days, Druckmann couldn't reveal if Part 3 is in the works at Naughty Dog, but said, I think there's more story to tell. This is the first we've heard about a potential follow-up to 2020's The Last of Us Part 2 since April 2021, when Druckmann said he and Part 2 co-writer Hallie Gross have written an outline for a story that we're not making, but I hope one day can see the light of day. That explores a little bit of what happens after this game. We'll see. Um, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a pretty big year for the Last of Us franchise. I mean, obviously they have the show coming out in 2 days, which the critics are reviewing it so far, and it's being very, very well received amongst critics. Obviously, the Last of Us multiplayer game will probably, I don't know if it'll see a release this year, but there's a good chance we're going to know a lot about it by the end of this year. Um, and
that's
then
good.
obviously you have Last of Us coming to PC this year. It's just going to be a big year for the franchise, and I don't know. I'm intrigued to see what they could do with Last of Us 3.
Yeah, me too, me too. I'm really interested to see where the show goes. So maybe what they could do is have The Last of Us 3 take place maybe where the show takes off, but I'm not sure where they're going with the show yet.
Right. Well, so I mean, I've heard basically what I've heard so far is that they are trying to keep it very close to the game.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of critics say it's their opinion the best adaptation from a video game they've seen to date. So I mean, we'll just have to see where we go from here with it. I mean, I'm excited to check it out in 2 days. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it right away. I don't remember if HBO Max does the weekly schedule per episode or if they do the like here's the season, here you go. Um,
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't like when they release the entire seasons at once. It just lets people watch the whole thing right away and be done. And I'm like, I don't like doing that. I like waiting a week, you know?
So I do too, but I currently am not subscribed to HBO Max, so I would
Ah,
probably wait until I can watch the whole thing before I subscribe, you know what I mean?
yeah, makes sense.
That's the only reason. Like anything else, like when like I have Disney Plus, when a Marvel or Star Wars show, I watch it week to week. And I do agree with you. I think that the best way to watch a show, any show, is to go week to week. It's just it gives you time to process and like another thing that and this isn't really game related, but when shows come out and they give you the whole season, everybody talks about that show for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And then nobody ever talks about it again. Like
Yep.
it never stays in people's minds. It never feels super memorable for the most part. But like you look at these shows that have this weekly release schedule where people are watching and consuming and talking about the show for like up to 2 months, 3 months, even sometimes. Like it just stays in people's minds more. I think it's definitely a better better way to release your content, in my
Yeah.
opinion. All right, coming up next, Sony was at CES this year. They don't do a lot of big, trade shows these days, but they do CES every year. Um, Here was what was announced by PlayStation at their CES show. First up, they announced Project Leonardo, a new accessibility controller kit for the PS5. This is basically it was an interesting image. It's kind of like a circle with like it looked like a joystick that was like not attached to it, or maybe it is attached to it. I think this is a great thing for them to have. Xbox has their own version they've had for a few years now with their accessibility controller. And it's just good to get accessibility going in the gaming world. I mean, the more people that you can have playing games, the better the gaming industry is for it. So I thought this was a really cool thing to see Sony put out. It looks like a very interesting controller. I have to like watch a video of it to see exactly like it kind of
I'm
looks like it like
actually
opens
sorry
up.
to interrupt you. I'm running a video of it right now.
Well, I'm gonna check it out while you're running it. Um, but yeah, I think this is really good for them. I think this is a good thing for them to be doing right now. So yeah, I mean we'll have to see what happens with it. Um, looks like producer Jeff is currently all right. Yeah, that looks good. I like that.
Not sure how it's going to be used though. Okay, so here's like a big breakdown of it. They got all the buttons kind of exploded out. Oh, I see, I see. So it's like a circular platform and all the buttons are around it. Wow.
Yeah, I think that's great. Again, it's good for them to have an alternative. Xbox has had one for
Whoa.
a long time, of quite a few years now, so it's really great to see them making that next step. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, that looks very cool. You know, that's going to give some accessibility to a lot of people that can't really use a normal controller. So that's great.
Also showed off at CES, Gran Turismo the movie. There was a sneak peek revealed. I honestly forgot that this was a thing, or either I forgot or I didn't know. Not really super looking forward to this one, admittedly. I'm not really sure like what a Gran Turismo movie would be about, but I mean they're making one.
I mean, obviously it's going to be about some racing, probably like the 24-hour Le Mans
I
race,
guess so, but like
you
I mean, does
know.
the Gran Turismo games have story that you could like adapt? And is it a story that's good enough that's worth adapting?
I mean, when it comes to just a racing game, making a movie is as simple as just making a movie that has racing in it. You can adapt that pretty easily, I would assume.
I guess so. Again, my question, my point is, I don't know if it's a movie worth making based off the story that is like, for example, Last of Us. That's a great story. Deserves to be a TV show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Super Mario Brothers, not a great story, but super memorable, like special, unique world that you could tell a very fun, unique story with. Deserves to be an adaptation. But like, does Gran Turismo, and this isn't even like the fact that it's a PlayStation thing. Like, would Forza Motorsport deserve a movie? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I
I
see
don't know.
what you're saying. Like, I'm trying to figure out where they could go. They could go with like the Gran Turismo is like the ultimate race in the world, like the Super Bowl, you know what I mean? And the
Maybe.
guys trying to get there, you know, but I don't know.
I guess so. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I didn't even know this was a thing, by the way.
Yeah. Jim Ryan also announced that PlayStation 5 has passed 30 million units sold. He also gave hope to those who haven't gotten one yet, saying that expect the stock troubles to lighten over the course of this year. Um, which is good for them. I mean, it's good to see that PS5 is doing well. I mean, yeah, and it's good to see. We're starting to see that with Xbox too. We're slowly starting to see people. If you want a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, I would say it's no longer impossible to get one. It's not at the point where it should be easy. Like it should be easy to walk in and buy a console at this point. These things have been
Yeah.
out for 2 years. Like it should be easy, but unfortunately, we're just not there yet. Which it is what it is. Um, but I would like to see both consoles do better in that front. It was also announced that Gran Turismo 7 is getting PSVR 2 support. Beat Saber is also coming to PSVR 2. PlayStation also announced that there will be 30 games released in the PSVR 2's launch window. Usually in video game PR speak, launch window can be about 6 months, though.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it that what PlayStation showed at CES. It was about what I expected. I wasn't expecting any big software announcements, but we got a new controller for to help with accessibility. The Gran Turismo thing was kind of weird, especially for CES. Um, bragging about the PS5 sales was, again, that's good news for them. And the PSVR 2, man, like man, if this thing wasn't $550 or whatever it is,
Seriously.
I would be getting one. Like it's a lot of money. It's really hard to justify that price tag. I mean, I don't know how many games I need to have on it, but
It's an entire new system for most people. Like, I mean,
no,
it
it
is. It's
is.
an
Both,
entirely new
both,
system.
yeah, both consoles are $500.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
crazy. I could no way.
it's really hard to justify. I mean, I'm gonna wait it out and see what the reviews say. I seriously doubt I'm getting one at launch, but maybe somewhere down the line, like maybe.
Like,
I really don't know though.
can't you go get an Oculus for $299?
Well,
The
that's the other
Oculus 2
argument.
even?
Yeah, right. Well, that's the other argument is why is PlayStation making it so expensive? But again, it's very similar to what we've seen with PlayStation being very anti-consumer in the ways that they go against what Xbox is trying to do. PlayStation tries to do the opposite. Um, where it's just like PlayStation wants to set up their walls and they want to act like no one else exists. PlayStation's kind of like the WWE of the video game universe. But I don't even want to say that because PlayStation actually puts out good games. You know, like so I
Yeah,
don't even want
yeah.
to say that, but in terms of how they view everyone else, PlayStation in their minds, they're the only game in town. They should be the only game in town, and they're going to do whatever they can to make other people do the same, feel the same way. So they are going to charge $500 for a VR headset when you can very easily walk into a Best Buy or wherever you'd buy a VR headset and buy a VR headset for half the price. Um, it's
Now,
unfortunately just the way PlayStation operates.
here's the only thing that I could justify that price point. If you're going to tell me that I can slap that thing on and play stuff like Call of Duty in VR, hell yeah, I'm in. But if you have like a limited supply of games and you're not even on the level of the Oculus yet, no way. Why would anyone spend 500? That's insane. I mean,
Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
that's
No,
yeah,
no,
I'm
no, go
just
ahead.
like I'm baffled by that price point. It has to be something special, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean that comes down. What you're talking about comes down to developers and whether they're willing to develop their games or update their games for it. I mean,
Mhm.
Capcom is doing it for Resident Evil Village. We're gonna get Resident Evil Village in VR when PSVR 2 launches. I think they said Resident Evil 4 Remake has VR as well. I'm not 100% sure about that. Don't quote me on that one. Um, or maybe no, it's that the original Resident Evil 4 has a VR mode now. But it comes down to developers. Like, do the developers want to do this? And that's like PlayStation's not doing themselves any favors. A lot of people view VR as a gimmick. And if you want VR to be viewed as more than a gimmick, you do need to make it somewhat accessible to your audience. Um, it's like 3D movies, man. Like they made these movies in 3D. You know, there was a big 3D movie craze like 10 years ago, and people just didn't go to see them. Like they just, it just wasn't, just didn't catch
Dude,
on. And it's the same thing. You just need to make it so people want to play these games, and a $500 price tag is going to make it very difficult for it to succeed.
yeah. I mean, if you want me to pay like it's got to be like Ready Player One. Like I got to be inside a game and like living that shit. You know what I mean? I do tell you one thing though. If they were to make a suitable version of Warzone, like you give me a BR that's in VR. No pun intended there. I'm in. Like if you give me a legit battle royale that's in VR, I might do whatever I can to buy that console, but until something like that, like nah, you know, I would have to be huge into racing or something. Like I would have to be huge into it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just see what happens with it. I mean, it comes out next month, so I assume we'll start seeing reviews in the coming weeks, and see what
That'd be
happens.
crazy if we get a surprise where like Apex Legends or someone is like, or Fortnite is like, guess what? On drop VR.
I mean, I think that's the play. I think you got to get
Yeah,
somebody to do
yeah.
that.
Fortnite's your most likely. They've already built like a whole world inside of Fortnite, so
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that is the play. But again, we shall see.
that'd be crazy.
All right, next up, Destiny 2 developer Bungie has quote unquote a number of unannounced games in the works. This was basically teased from, let's see, Bungie senior lead designer Tom Farnsworth took to Twitter last week. Sony is currently supporting the studio with these projects, but don't expect any reveals just yet. He was showing off this really cool shield that commemorated his 11 years with Bungie. And then he also followed up with saying, He tweeted out the following: "And with the support of Sony, we are working on a number of unannounced projects too. Come join us." Also, obviously, he's missing a medal. His kids played with the shield a while back. I don't know if you're showing the shield on the stream.
Yes,
It's a
sir.
pretty cool looking stream or shield to just give to employees. Like, hey, you've been here for a long time. Here's this shield with all the stuff you've worked on, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Um,
they're almost on their like badges. Like I don't want to say like Boy Scout badges, but that's the only thing that comes to mind. Like they're kind of like all stamped on in a honeycomb pattern. That's really really cool.
right. So yeah, I mean, we can definitely. There's not much to this one, unfortunately, but I mean, Bungie, they're a masterclass game developer. Definitely a big gain to have for Sony to have them in their portfolio of developers. I mean, these guys made Halo, and then they made Destiny, so they definitely know what they're doing. Okay. All right, Jeff. A new Gears of War game has been announced.
Wait, what?
Well, kind of. It's a physical card game.
A physical card game?
Yeah, it's a physical card game.
Gears of War, the card game coming soon. Okay, so like Magic the Gathering type card game, Pokemon.
Yeah, so like I said, Gears of War card game has been announced. As we wait for Gears of War 6, this new Gears project has emerged. If you're a fan of board games, it might just be up your alley. SFG Games, who have adapted titles like Elden Ring, Resident Evil, and Dark Souls for tabletops, are working with Microsoft and the Coalition on a shiny new Gears of War card game set to launch sometime this year in 2023. There wasn't really a lot of details to it, but yeah, this was going to be another one where I was going to like swerve Forest.
Yeah, you kind of got me there. I was like, ooh, new Gears of War game.
Yeah,
I love those games.
I'm personally like dying for more Gears of War. I can't wait. It's been a while. Clearly, the Coalition's working on Gears 6 right now. Um, we just got to be patient with that. Maybe we hear something from them soon, though. All right. All right. So we actually had an interesting rumor that surfaced via a very short gameplay leak. New Sony XDev sci-fi RPG has leaked with alleged gameplay. A short clip surfaced online last week that shows an all-new Sony sci-fi RPG title being developed by its subsidiary XDev. In a 6-second clip, first revealed by Icon Era, a third-person perspective game is shown portraying what appears to be a soldier or astronaut observing some kind of enormous life form scaling a strange building. According to the leakers, this unnamed project is in its earliest stages, which is apparent by the gameplay shown. There were details revealed that suggest the game is being built on Unreal Engine 5 and it's being worked by XDev and another unnamed developer. It could boast the power of the team responsible for helping out with Death Stranding, Returnal, and Detroit Become Human. It seems... So, Jeff, I don't know if you're able to find it. It seems like on the original source that I had, the video is no longer there. It could have been taken down.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can move to it here. I'm gonna see if I can get it
find
here.
it for us. It doesn't really show too much. It looks kind of like I said. It looks like a open world sci-fi, third person. What an interesting ad that is for whatever the hell is wrapped around that girl's face.
Whoa, that's crazy looking. All right, I got it here.
You said you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That monster is creepy as, and it's like the size of a freaking moon.
Yeah. So obviously, again, this is just very early gameplay. But I think this is really good to see Sony continuing to expand the kind of games it's making. I mean, obviously, it has some shooters in its history, but as we've talked about here on the podcast, like they really need to work more on their first person, or not their first person. I'm sorry, their first party shooter portfolio. It's severely lacking, and whether Call of Duty is going to Xbox or not, which it's not going to be exclusive to Xbox, I don't think that's an excuse for Sony not to have some sort of shooter on its platform.
I guess so, yeah.
It's good to see. It's good to see that they're working on stuff. All right, Jeff. Here's one that I put in for you specifically. And maybe you've played it. I didn't ask you beforehand, but maybe you can give some perspective on this. So some Overwatch 2 fans are calling Widowmaker's new skin pay to lose. A new Overwatch 2 event is currently live, and some fans are voicing their opinions in the latest Widowmaker skin by calling it pay to lose. The current event has a handful of heroes, all in Greek mythology skins. Thanks to a report from Charlie Intel, we know that the Medusa skin on Widowmaker is disadvantaging players. The report goes on to share a tweet by Brian St. Pierre, an Overwatch 2 pro, who showcases how loud the snakes on Widowmaker's head are in a tweet, which makes it difficult to hear where the enemies are and easier for them to spot you due to the noise they make. A large reason why some fans are upset about this is the only way to obtain this skin is by purchasing it with real-world money. Jeff, have you been playing Overwatch 2, or have you been more so staying on Warzone?
So Overwatch 2 was a huge disappointment for me. I quit fairly quickly, actually. It was like 2 weeks in. But I did just watch the clip of the skin. So essentially it's Medusa. She's got the snakes on top of her head, and she's hiding in a corner, and this guy can hear her from like a good 15, 20 feet away. And yeah, that's not good when you're a stealth hero.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, I guess.
That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I literally added that to the news roundup for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. All right, next up. Halo the series was the #1 show on Paramount Plus last year. It eclipsed Yellowstone and 1883 as their #1 most successful show. Season 2 of Halo is currently in production. That comes from the Wall Street Journal. Jeff, I was disappointed by the Halo TV series without even watching the Halo series. Just reading about things that they did, creative decisions that they made in that show, it seemed really disappointing. Just how they handled Master Chief, was not a fan of it. They basically he's without his helmet all the time, and like towards the end of the series,
yeah. I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, like, there's a new trend that's been going in television where it's blatantly obvious that the writers did not play the games. You know what I mean? Like with, there's certain times in The Witcher, there's certain time, like in this show, obviously in this show, it's just obvious that some of your writing team just did not play the games, because to have him without his helmet so often makes zero sense. Because how many times did we see him without his helmet in the games?
Never.
Like,
you
never
see it.
Never. So I'm just like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, it's really disappointing to see, and you really hate to see it. I was really optimistic for the show. Both me, Dev, and I were both really optimistic for it, because it just, like, the trailers looked really good, and we were like, oh, we're gonna get Paramount, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then we never did, because, like, it was like episode 1, Chief is walking around without a helmet. Oh, that's weird. By episode 6, Chief was like full blown naked. Like, I think you actually see Chief's butt in one of the episodes.
You do.
Like,
now, well, here's what bothers me the most is you had an opportunity to have a character that you don't need an actor for. And what I mean is you can replace this guy with anybody you want, like a freaking Power Ranger. You know what I mean? Like, if this guy doesn't do well, move on. It's like a Predator. They've never had like one particular guy for the Predator. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why you would pass up on the chance to just have anybody you want in that suit. You know what I mean? It's just weird that they went that direction. Very weird.
Yeah, so it was disappointing, but apparently, regardless, it did really well for them, and season 2 is in production. Hopefully they make the show better. I mean, if season 2 is really good, maybe I'll go back and watch season 1 before I get it and get season 2, but you know, we'll see what happens, I guess. All right, Jeff, I have in front of me the biggest Xbox announcement of all time.
All right.
Xbox announced yesterday, on January 9th, 2023, You'll remember where you were at the moment that Xbox announced a partnership with Oreo with special edition Xbox Oreo cookies, in which case you could win delicious prizes by getting the packs of Oreos. These Oreos look really cool, but they're just Oreos.
I gotta ask you, were you familiar with the Pokemon Oreos that came out?
Slightly.
So when those came out, I had just finished eating like an entire box of them when one of my friends texted me, LOL, look at this, and it's eBay. And Pikachu Oreos were selling for $20 each. And I had probably just consumed like 12 of them. And I'm like looking like, okay, those are just for sale. They're not actually selling. But on eBay, you can go to the filter and hit sold, and it shows you ones that were sold. And there were dozens of them for $20, $18, $25. And I was just like, well, I just ate like $200.
So again, this is more of a funny story.
Yeah.
But then it was also even made worse when it was revealed that these Xbox Oreos are not available in the United States.
No.
They're only available, I believe, the UK and other markets.
In 22 countries in Europe only.
Yep.
What the heck? Isn't Oreo a US based company? That means they have to make them here and then send them there. What the?
Very interesting, very, very interesting thing here from Xbox. But I decided to use that first before going into what is the biggest news story of the week. This came from Windows Central. Actually, so before this, there was a tweet from Aaron Greenberg, who works at Xbox. He basically tweeted that this was going to be a really exciting week. He was very excited for the days to go on of this week, implying that we were going to get some pretty big news. A few hours later, Windows Central broke a story saying that there will be an Xbox showcase called a Developer Direct, where it would be expected that we would see games such as Redfall, Forza, and more. So basically, Windows Central reports that Xbox fans have been waiting for a while for information on this year's slate of Xbox games, set to include games like Redfall and the hotly anticipated Starfield. Seems that we won't have to wait much longer if our information is correct. It was heard that there was an Xbox showcase on the horizon back in December, as was discussed on the Xbox 2 podcast, but have since been able to lock the information down with a variety of sources familiar with Microsoft's plans. It seems the show will be called a Developer Direct and may be part of a new initiative from Microsoft and Xbox to offer information on upcoming games more frequently outside of the major E3 and Game Awards marketing beats. From what Windows Central understands, the Developer Direct show is slated for January 25th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Xbox's official channels on Twitch and YouTube. Although these dates may be subject to change, the show will be hosted by both Xbox and Bethesda, with deep dives into Redfall, Minecraft Legends, Forza Motorsport, and content from ZeniMax Online Studios. Windows Central is pretty spot on with this type of stuff. I believe this was Jez Corden. Yeah, Jez Corden. Jez does really good reporting in the Xbox world. So I mean, obviously take it with a grain of salt, but I would very much expect this to be accurate reporting. Getting Xbox needs to start doing direct style shows. You got Nintendo with their directs and PlayStation with the state of plays, and whether those are good or not, whether they hinder your big summer show or not, like at the end of the day, Xbox goes radio silent for way too many days of the year or way too many parts of the year, if that makes sense. They have a lot of developers working on a lot of games right now, and they really need to start showcasing these games. And I think that this is a really, really great step in that direction. Really awesome to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. Great step in the right direction.
Yeah. I did notice that it was interesting that the leak set seems to, not mention that Starfield will be talked about, which I'm okay with, but I think that they need to discuss it briefly, at least touch on the fact that they're not going to show it on that show, because people are going to get concerned, especially if you're claiming that this game is coming out in the first half of this year. If you're not ready to talk about it by late January and you're saying it's going to come out by June at the latest, that's kind of concerning.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. There's some rumors going around also that not by Windows Central, that we're going to see some new game announcements as well during this developer direct. But yeah, no, I think this is great. I think Xbox has done a great job being transparent with their fans, and this is just a really great step in the right direction, and it's going to be great content for us here. All right. Well, Jeff, that is the news headlines for the week. Let's get into the video game releases releasing this week. Which is kind of funny that Forrest is finally not here after him doing the show for 3 weeks and there being no games coming out. But what can you do, I guess? All right. First up, releasing tomorrow, Children of Silent Town comes to PS5, Xbox Series consoles, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Cartrider Drift comes to the PC, iOS, and Android tomorrow as well. On January 12th, we're getting Lone Ruin for the Switch and PC. Vengeful Guardian Moonrider comes to PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC on January 12th. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot gets its next-gen upgrade, or current-gen upgrade, to the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles on January 13th. And the big release for this week, I would say this is the first big release of the year, especially if you're a fan of One Piece. One Piece Odyssey launches on January 13th for PS5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Now, Jeff, you're a One Piece fan, correct?
What's that?
You're a One Piece fan, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you're picking this game up, or where are you at with this game?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be picking this game up, man. One Piece, I had a couple of the old ones. I think I had Pirate Odyssey 3 and 2, so I gotta continue with gotta continue with the series here.
Yeah, I think this game actually looks really good, and despite the fact that I have no idea about anything One Piece. So it's like, okay, I mean, like I'm happy for you, and like I know Dev's a big One Piece fan as well.
Yeah.
So
Tell
I
him
think
we're best friends now.
I was telling him, and I think you should as well. Like you guys should just get the game and like work on review the game.
Oh, dude, 100%,
I
absolutely.
would love to sit in for a review instead of doing the review. That would be That would be nice. But yeah, so that's the releases for this week. Nothing really strikes me personally, although again, I do think that One Piece Odyssey looks good. The Dragon Ball Z Kakarot upgrade is something that I'm interested in. Admittedly, I already have Kakarot, but I didn't play it yet. So getting a free upgrade on the Series X, that's a win for me, basically. But yeah. All right, Jeff. Time for the topic of the show. So, Jeff, I do this thing, right? I've talked about it on the show briefly, and I talked to Forrest about it and you about it. And Forrest, like I said earlier, said it would be a good idea to do this, and I think so as well. I keep a log of all the games that I play throughout the year. I started doing this like 2 years ago, and it's just fun to see like how many games I can beat in a year, finish in a year, whatever it is. Um, so I figured we would run through the list. I'm not going to talk in depth about everything, but there are certain games I played last year, especially because the podcast wasn't a thing. This podcast, so like I didn't get to talk about a lot of the games that came out last year. I think this is a good way for me to get some 2 cents in on some things, and if there's anything you want to jump in on, obviously feel free.
Yeah, that works.
All right. So some guidelines for me about how I track this stuff. And again, try to follow along. So when I play a game and I do the log, there's 3 ways that I can be done with a game. There's playing a game, which is, I boot it up, play it for however much time, and then I just stop playing it. Now, this could be because there's no finish to the game, maybe it's a puzzle game, or there's just no end in sight, or it's just not a very good game and I just put it down. Then there's also finishing a game, which for me, by how I, do this list, is do I hit the credits? Do I experience the main story of the game or the main portion of the game and I get to the end of said game? And then there's the completion, which is if it's an Xbox game, getting all achievements, PlayStation trophies, getting the platinum, or if it's like a Nintendo game or a non-Xbox PlayStation game, do I just do everything that the game has to offer? And those are the 3 guidelines that I go off of: playing, finishing, and completing. Please keep that in mind. All right. So in January, I started off the year by finishing Grand Theft Auto 3, the Definitive Edition. I didn't want to complete it because at the time, for those that remember, the Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition was a nightmare. The games were extremely broken, very glitchy. Luckily they had it fixed by the time I did San Andreas, so it wasn't too bad on San Andreas, but there were still some bugs on that as well. However, the next game I played in January was Echo Generation for Xbox. And man, I completed this game. I loved it so much. Even though I've never watched Stranger Things, I'm told it's a very Stranger Things-esque game. And this was like, I just loved it. And they announced Ravenlock coming to Xbox Game Pass this year from the same developer, and I'm so down for it. Echo Generation was an awesome game, kind of a turn-based RPG, but a lot of fun. After that, I completed a game called The Artful Escape. It reviewed very well critically. I thought it was just fine. Like, I know, Jeff, sometimes you're really like, oh, I gotta see what the fan reception is. And like the
Yeah.
critics really loved The Artful Escape. And I was like, oh, I'll have to check it out. And it was on Game Pass, so I went and completed it. And I was like, oh, like it wasn't bad. It was just fine. I mean, I didn't think it was anything special.
I
Um,
got you.
Later that month, I also, I booted up my Switch and played some games off the Nintendo Switch online service. For the Genesis specifically, I played Sword of Vermilion, and then I also played Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Sword of Vermilion was a little dated for me. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, so I probably put maybe like a half hour into it before I put it down. And then Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was a puzzle game, so that also just gets a played for me because there's nothing to finish. Um, Afterwards, I went and finished the new Pokemon Snap DLC, which was actually a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that Nintendo's kind of getting better at the DLC thing, and a lot of it's free updates too, which was really cool. Not having to pay for extra Pokemon Snap was really nice to have in January. And then I closed out the month by playing a game called Crown Trick on Game Pass. It was kind of like a dungeon crawler. It just really didn't capture me. So after like an hour or two, I was just kind of out of it and stopped playing. Onwards to February. In February, I only played one game, and it was a completion for me. It was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the Definitive Edition. So I was really kind of hesitant to get into San Andreas. I love San Andreas; it's one of my favorite games of all time. And when the patches started rolling out a little bit for it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to jump in. Now seems like a good time. Now it was the first time I had ever like really sat down and like the completion for this was basically getting 100% of the game, and it was pretty awful actually. I really enjoyed playing the base game and getting to the credits as I have hundreds of times. But on the Definitive Edition, a lot of places where the game was not fixed was that extra content for the completion, so it kind of really sucked for me. I ran into a game-breaking glitch, which thank God I saved, like had multiple save files. Otherwise, I would have lost all my progress. But that was kind of rough. But that was pretty much all I did in February, due to the nature of the glitches and me having to work around things, and yeah, it wasn't fun. Luckily in March, Jeff, I completed what was at the time my game of the year, Pokemon Legends Arceus. So this game was just incredible. Obviously, Forrest and I were going back and forth on it last week, and I believe you also had 2 cents on it. Man, what an awesome freaking experiment for Pokemon. I absolutely love this. I didn't want it to replace the Pokemon format that we've had for decades, but having this as a side game that they can kind of dip into whenever they want, it was just a no-brainer. It was just such an excellent game. Again, this was a completion for me, which what I considered a completion for this was completing the Pokedex, getting all the not all the challenges, but doing enough challenges where every slot in the Pokedex was filled out and completed. Um, but I had a blast doing it. It was actually my first full Pokedex that I completed for a Pokemon game.
Nice.
So that was awesome.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. Moving through the month, I kind of just picked up some smaller titles I was playing. A lot of them on Game Pass. I completed a game called Unpacking, which was really fun. Played the Mario Brothers arcade game on Nintendo Switch Online randomly. Got to played because that's another game that doesn't have an ending. Completed a game called Townscaper, which was pretty fun. It's kind of like a town building, kind of puzzly kind of game. It was really chill. I needed a chill game, and that was fun. And then I played Rubber Bandit, which was just me dicking around on Game Pass, and it was fine. I got like a couple hundred gamer score off of it, and then moved on within a few hours. In April, I beat or finished Halo Infinite. I finally had gone around to playing it after its November launch in 2021. And yeah, I really loved Halo Infinite's story. The campaign was really good. The open world was fine. It was definitely a cool way to experience Halo as opposed to the linear levels that they've done, in all the games since or previously. But, it was a cool experiment that I really ended up enjoying and had a good time with. The multiplayer was fine. Obviously, at the time, a lot of the features that have come out since, weren't there. So I didn't really spend too much time in the multiplayer side. Meanwhile, in that month, Dev and I completed It Takes Two, which won the Game Awards Game of the Year award last year. Well, 2 years ago now, being 2021. And that was a really fun game. Hazelight makes some really awesome games. Jeff, did you ever play the original Hazelight game? I think it's called No Way Out, if I recall.
I don't think so.
Bro, we need to play that game. I will absolutely play that game with you. It is a really, really good game. I don't want to give anything away, but it's a co-op game, 2 players with a really cool story, and we're gonna have to play it. I don't want you to look it up. We have to play it though.
All right.
I think you would really enjoy it as well. But so It Takes Two was the next game from that developer, and that was a really cool game as well. Not as good as No Way Out, but still fun. Now in May, I didn't record anything. That was because I started a game in May, but literally played it for the entire month. And that game was Octopath Traveler, which I finished at the beginning of June. I think it was like literally June 1st, if I recall. This game was fucking excellent. I absolutely loved it. I was so hyped, towards the end of the year when they announced Octopath 2. But yeah, I spent like a whole month just playing this game. It was that good. Just amazing storytelling. The visuals were incredible, and I can't say enough good things about Octopath Traveler. And then the rest of that month I kind of just kind of didn't do much. I played F-Zero X, the N64 game on my NSO, which is Nintendo Switch Online. I completed a game called Kill It With Fire, which was a hilarious game, Jeff. This is another one I would recommend you play. It's basically, Jeff, do you dislike spiders?
I hate spiders.
Okay, then you need to play this game. I don't know if you have any B-roll planned for this game, Jeff, but you should just pull up some gameplay real quick if you can. If we can just take a stop right here, take
What's
a
it
little
called?
break. Look up. Just look it up. It's called Kill It With Fire. It came out in 2020. If that helps you find some B-roll for it. But this game was a really fun completion. It's basically a spider killing adventure where it's like over the top. Like you're using the craziest weapons. You're using shotguns, bazookas, flamethrowers to kill regular spiders. Like you're a full-sized human being killing spiders with flamethrowers, bazookas. Like I don't want to give away the ending of the game, but like it gets really ridiculous. And I had an absolute blast playing this game and completing this game. Did you find any B-roll, Jeff?
Yeah, I got some rolling right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this was like a totally like silly game, but I spent a few days, but I think probably about a week actually, getting all the achievements for it. It was on Game Pass. I think it's still on Game Pass. Um,
This
but
looks
yeah,
like it
this
could be VR easily.
probably I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so you basically go through each level, and you're just looking for all the spiders. There's some objectives and stuff that have to go with achievements and finding things, but you have to go through and you basically just wreck everything. You're moving things. You're like in one of the later levels, you blow up a gas station to kill the spiders. Like it, and it gets crazier than that. But yeah, this was a lot of fun to play and a lot of fun to complete. Actually,
It looks like someone made it in a paint program, but I actually like that.
yeah, the graphics are definitely primitive. It's an indie game. But it's one of the great things about Game Pass where like I would never have thought to buy this game. You know what I mean? Like I never would have spent the money to buy this game. But I
Yeah.
played it on Game Pass and I'm glad I did because I enjoyed it.
This is where I'd be looking for spiders in the garage.
Yeah, I think this is the second level in the game and you end up like what do you end up doing? I think you find C4 in the garage actually. And you use the C4 to kill the spiders if I recall. Again, I played this back in June. Um Or Molotovs. No, no, no. This is the level you get the Molotov cocktails.
All right,
That's what it is.
we're at the convenience store now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on the B-roll. But yeah, so you actually blow up the gas station, the convenience store. That's like how the level ends.
So what's he
Um,
grabbing candy bars and he's like lighting them on fire with the laser?
yeah, and again, it's just a fun like, and there's no wrong way to kill. Oh, so what he's doing with the candy bar is there was a one of the objectives in that level was to ring up like $100
Oh, I
worth of
see it.
stuff on the
Yeah.
dot. Like that's a completion thing, you know what I mean? Like if you're trying to get all the achievements and stuff. Um, but again, this was a really fun game.
Looks good.
Yeah. Moving on. July, I completed Horizon Zero Dawn. I spent this year getting caught up on a few PlayStation games that I had missed out because I didn't really play my PS4 much. I just didn't get around to a lot of it, So I completed Horizon Zero Dawn. Absolutely loved it. It was an incredible game. It was funny because I had actually played it when it first came out on PS4. And I just wasn't playing it right. Like I was treating it too much like a stealth game and I wasn't enjoying it. But so I came back around this time and I played it more as like a kind of like a predator hunting kind of stealth game and my experience just changed completely. Really loved it and I ended up completing it. I also completed a game called A Memoir Blue. That was a pretty quick completion, but that was a fun little story game about a girl dealing with fear of drowning and other things. But fun stuff. I also did a Pokemon Red Nuzlocke, and I actually beat it, which is so I counted as a completion. This was my first ever full Nuzlocke that I had really sat down and done. Forrest told me that doing a Gen 1 Nuzlocke was like one of the hardest Nuzlocks you can do. So I started out with a hard Nuzlocke. I lost my Charmeleon halfway through, which broke my heart. But Flareon was a fire type that actually really made it work. And it was the first time ever really using a Flareon, and he came in pretty clutch sometimes. Pretty clutch. Um,
For us noobs here, can you explain what a Nuzlocke is?
Oh, of course, yes. So a Nuzlocke is a way to challenge yourself in the Pokemon games. Basically, it's a set of rules that limit yourself from being able to
Oh,
beat the game. I'm sorry.
I was just saying. Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you not know what a Nuzlocke is?
No.
Really? Oh my god! I thought you were just saying like for the sake of the
No, yeah,
audio.
I never
Okay.
heard that term before.
So in a Nuzlocke, you can only catch one Pokemon per route or city. You can only catch one. And if that Pokemon faints at any point on your adventure, it is dead and you cannot use it anymore. So you're
Oh.
limited into what you can catch, and you're limited into. It really makes you have to double down on strategy in Pokemon. You can't just be like, I'm going to brute force my way through this. No, if you do that, you're going to lose Pokemon and it's going to suck for you. Um, and then basically you just get through the game this way,
Okay.
catching one per route, and then releasing or putting them in your box if they faint because they're dead. And yeah, I mean that's the basics. There are different variations to the rules. Like almost all Nuzlockes require you to nickname all your Pokemon. I personally don't nickname my Pokemon. Like I view my Pokemon as what they are. So it's like that's my Charmeleon. That's what he is. It's who he is.
Yeah.
So I don't nickname them, but that's not a huge deal. In Nuzlocke, you generally do nickname them. Other people add more rules to it. Some Nuzlockers don't let you use healing items during battle. Um, for me, I keep it basic. I think that the added rules of death and one per route is difficult enough. But yeah, that's what a Nuzlocke is. I would recommend trying it, Jeff, especially if you've played Pokemon for literally years. It's definitely worth trying at least once. All right. So for the rest of July, Dev and I started playing the Gears of War games. He had never played them, and we finished Gears 1 and Gears 2 in this month. Both great games. In the meantime, in my own spare time, I completed Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, which was a really awesome game. It's kind of like the Hyrule Warriors, Dynasty Warriors type game in the Fire Emblem Three Houses world. Had a really good time with that. So that was a fun completion. And then in August, played some really awesome games in August. Actually, the rest of this year was pretty great. I completed Live Alive, which came out on the Switch in July. And honestly, this is probably my favorite new game that I played this year. I would probably say it's my game of the year. But then Pokemon Scarlet was something really special. But Live Alive was a remake or a port of an old Super Nintendo game that was only released in Japan. It's a really awesome game. I don't want to give anything away, but it's basically in the game. There's about 7 or 8 different characters from different eras of human history, going as far back as prehistoric era, and then going as far forward as the far future. And each character has their own story, and the stories, in a way, I don't want to give anything away, but they kind of collide together in something, but I don't want to say anything. And I loved playing this game. This was such an awesome game to play. In the meantime, again, Dev and I play a lot of games. We completed As Dusk Falls, which was on Game Pass. It was an Xbox exclusive game. Really fun, awesome, kind of story-driven game where we had a lot of arguments and discussions. It kind of sucks because Dev was originally going to sit in on this episode, and we were going to talk about some of these games we played together. But As Dusk Falls was just a really awesome game that had us legitimately shouting at each other with just like these moral dilemmas. Like it was really an awesome game, and I really recommend people taking a few hours to play that. So also in August, I started a playthrough of the entire series of The Legend of Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom comes out in May, as we've talked about, May 12th. So I'm kind of slowly working my way through the games. In the month of August, I completed the original Legend of Zelda and played Zelda 2. That game is too hard. I cannot beat it, unfortunately. It is what it is. And I also completed A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. In between these games, I completed Stray, which we talked about a few times, Jeff, here on the podcast. Really awesome game. Really enjoyed that one. Pretty depressing, though. I think I've said that a lot on this podcast. It was a very depressing game. I played Dr. Mario, the original NES one, on the Nintendo Switch Online. And then also in August, I did a Pokemon Blue 3-starter run, which was basically, just playing Pokemon Blue with Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur via trades. I had all three on one side. I don't know why I played Pokemon Gen 1 twice this year, but I did. I just felt
Why not?
well, like Gen 1, as much as I love it, it hasn't aged the best. So the fact that it was Gen 1 specifically that I played twice, it is kind of nuts. But oh well. September rolled around, and Dev and I continued our Gears of War campaigns. We finished Gears 3, Gears Judgment, and Gears 4. Meanwhile, in my spare time, I completed Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, which was the remake of Destroy All Humans 2, which came out, I believe, the 360 generation. Had a great time with the Destroy All Humans games, and this one was no different. And then in September, I got this gaming laptop that is currently sitting in front of me. And so with my first PC game playing in years, I re-downloaded Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, which was an old RTS Star Wars game that I played in 2001. Um, and yeah, it was such a nostalgic blast to go back and play that game. If you like Star Wars and you like RTSs, like this one's really good. It's old. It came out 20 years ago at this point, 22 years ago, which that makes me feel old. But I can't imagine how Jeff feels when I say old as in 2001. Um, but yeah, that was a really fun completion in the month of September. So from here on out, the amount of games completed kind of slowed down just because of the length of the games I was playing. In October, I completed The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, continuing my Zelda playthroughs. Played a game called Origami 2, which was really cool. It was kind of like a ninja game, ninja stealth game. That was an awesome game to play. And I completed Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which came out this year. I really just there's a common thread here throughout the year, but the Nintendo Switch was awesome last year, which you could see in our report cards episode. I believe I gave them an A. Just absolutely great year for them. But I loved Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's my favorite Kirby game of all time, beating out Kirby 64. Just really, really enjoyed it.
I had Stray on there for a long time just for Doge.
I don't know if the Doge would like the cat. Does the Doge like the cat?
Well, he said too many cats in that Stray game.
Oh man, don't do that to the Doge. Anyways, in November, I completed The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Once again, working through the Zelda games, which is ironic because I don't think I'm going to get through all of them before May. I think I'm going to fall short, but we'll see what happens. However, after that in November, I was completely obsessed with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I completed this game, at least what I consider completion for right now. I got all the achievements in the game, and I am completely maxed out level-wise. I did not get all the camos. My plan is to go back and do more camos once the next update or the next season comes out, so that way I can keep leveling up. You know what I mean, Jeff?
Yeah.
So right now I have about 20 gold guns, I believe. It's like 20 to 22 gold guns. I'm gonna go back in once they add more prestiges, and I'm gonna keep working on them. But I loved Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It's probably my favorite new release this year that's not a Nintendo game. It was excellent. Um,
Yeah, if you're a multiplayer player, it's freaking great, but man, that Warzone's rough.
you know, I completely disagree. I think that people that don't like Warzone 2 should just shut up and go play Warzone 1. Like, you just say you want Warzone 1. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
okay to say you really liked the last one. I really like Blackout, but guess what? The new one's out now.
Yeah.
Literally, like, I'm sorry, Jeff, a little bit of a rant slash tangent. I keep seeing people complaining about Warzone 2, and everything I see is basically them complaining that it's not Warzone 1. Like, oh, we need more loadout boxes. Oh, we need more I don't know, fucking loadout drops. Like loadout. Like Jeff, like what complaints do you have about Warzone 2 specifically?
So my complaint about Warzone 2 is the time to kill. The TTK is just way too fast, man. Somebody from across the map with an RPK and their aim assist can kill me before I even have a chance to turn around. That's my only complaint. Um Warzone 1, like when I watch people play it now, because a lot of people are actually going back to it, which I didn't even know you could do until the other day. I thought it was like shut down. But
No, it turned back on.
yeah, you can go over there and play it, and people were able to start getting shot and survive and run away and start putting plates on while they were running. And it's like, oh my God, I can survive this fight. And then at the same time, your enemy can't hold 5 self revives in their backpack. Like, there's just a couple of things that are stopping it from being amazing. This Warzone 2 has a chance to be one of the best games of all time. But there's a few things that they have done that are making it really hard for people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I can sympathize with some of the things, like the self revive thing is definitely
Yeah,
an issue. I could see that, and
that's crazy. I
I don't
killed a
think the
dude.
time to kill, in my opinion, is all that bad. Actually, I'm a little surprised to hear that because I mean, I admittedly haven't played in a few weeks because I've been working on other games, but I didn't really have a lot of problems with the time to kill personally.
In Warzone, that's like the biggest complaint. Everybody's just like, you can't do anything. You know, it's just you're dead.
Maybe we
Somebody
just
catches you from behind, you're dead.
maybe we just get our stuff from different people because everything I see about the complaints is like we need more loadout drops, like loadouts. I'm like,
Yeah,
bro,
they did ask for loadouts. They did give them to us. They're in the buy zones
there.
now. They cost an arm and a leg, but hey, they're there if you want them, and you know it is what it is.
Just go play
I don't
multiplayer.
necessarily care about the loadouts because the perks are bugged. No matter what perks you pick, you get quick fix. A lot of people don't know that right now. They're bugged. You get quick fix instead of whatever you pick. So I just go buy my guns from the buy station, and that's it, man. They're only 2,500, $5,000. I can find that in 30 seconds, and yeah, I don't even need my loadouts anymore.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so in December then, I completed Pokemon Scarlet, which, as we talked about here on on the podcast, because at this point the Game Room podcast was a thing. I absolutely love this game. I think it's my game of the year for 2022. It had its technical issues, but let's just say this, Jeff, an inside joke. This game, when talking about it, it left me speechless.
Nice.
I could spin that. That's good. And then I finished out the year on New Year's Eve. I hit the credits and finished the 2018 version of God of War, which I loved.
Oh,
Um,
nice choice.
yeah. Well, because obviously I got God of War Ragnarok for Christmas. I was like, yeah, I really got to get God of War done, don't I? So,
I would
um,
I would have expected you to go a GTA route for the end of the year. You know, go blow some stuff up.
yeah, I mean, the end of the year, it's just trying to I'm trying to finish up the year and play some bigger releases. Like for me, like September through December is like, all right, what's the big games to play right now? Whereas like throughout, like earlier in the year, it's kind of like let's just knock out a bunch of games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but so that was my gaming adventure in 2022. My game log. I did put some stats together last night, and I found them pretty interesting. So I'm going to share them with you. I think you don't even know these because these weren't on the script I sent you. I put them together when I didn't have internet last night because fuck Comcast, which is why we're doing this show on Tuesday night. My internet was out for 13 hours yesterday. It was great. Um,
Yeah, that was rough. When you showed me that picture that said 3 a.m., I was like, oh,
I was so I was so mad. I was like, we had Dev over here because Dev's gonna start being on the pod, and it was gonna be this whole awesome thing, and
oh
just
man.
no. But that's okay. So Jeff, I'm gonna run through these stats real quick. And then we'll close out the show. So in terms of the consoles played or games played on those consoles, last year in 2022, I played slash finished slash completed 45 games, Jeff.
That's a
22 of
lot of
those.
games, dude.
It is a lot of games. I was kind of bummed that I didn't hit 50. I could have hit 50 if I had kept that mid-year momentum going, but in August it kind of fell apart a little bit. The Phillies started making that run for the World Series, and I just started watching more baseball, so it just took up more of my time. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that's wild, bro. I think like I'm at like 5, if that.
I mean, I play a lot of games. I watch a lot of wrestling. It's what it is. Um, but so of the 45 games, 22 of them I played on my Xbox Series X console. 15 were played on my Switch. 3 on my PS5. 2 of the games were 3DS games. 1 PC game, and 1 Game Boy Color game.
Nice.
So of the 45 games, I played 9 of them, finished 11 of them, completed 25. So that's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
So I talk about game services a lot. And like, how much do I use these services? So of the 45 games, 22 of them were not part of any game service. I owned the game and I played the game, like the physical copy of the game. 13 of the games were Game Pass games. So not so, one a month and then plus one. 9 of the games were on the Nintendo Switch Online service, and 1 was on PS Plus, which was Stray.
Okay.
All right, so the last stat that I saved, which I thought was a really interesting stat because the wife and I actually argue about this a lot. She says that I don't play a lot of the new games I buy. Here's what I found. So I also, when I log the games, I put what year that game released just to log it. So I'm gonna run through the years, Jeff, and how many games from that year I played last year. But I'm gonna do it in a easy way, not a counting up way. I'm gonna do it as these are the years that I played one game last year with. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the years that I played one game that released that year. 1983, 1986, 1987, 1989. Jeff, how old were you in 1983?
In 83, I was not born yet.
Oh, wow, that's surprising. 1990, 1991, 1993, 2001, 2006, 2008, 2011, and 2013. 12 of the games that I played out of the 45 were released in a year that I only played one game that year. I promise that none of them are that long after this one.
Okay.
There were 2 years that I played 2 games that released those years, and that was 2017 and 2018. In 3 games played for the year 2020, 5 games for 1998, which you can tell I go back to 1998 quite often. And then for 2021 and 2022, 10 games from each year. So I enjoyed doing that last stat because, again, the wife says that I don't play newer games. I just keep playing all the old games. But it's not true, Jeff. The stats are literally there. The facts are in place.
Show her, man. The stats don't lie.
They don't. The numbers don't lie, Jeff. The numbers do
don't
not lie. So that was fun. I mean, again, originally this topic was going to have either Forrest or Dev here, and they kind of had, games I played with both of them and whatnot. But I still thought that it was good to kind of follow through with the topic, especially on a delayed show where we could just kind of, just go through with what we had planned.
Yeah, man, that's a lot of games. I can't believe you keep a log like that. That's actually really cool. Kind of reminds me of Chris Jericho's log of his matches,
You know what's funny? I think that might have been where I got the inspiration from, I think. Maybe. No.
Makes sense.
I started doing it before that book came out, because the book came out in like mid-21, and I had already started doing it in January of 21. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what made me just start doing it, but it's kind of fun to look back after the year's over and like see how many games I've beaten and like where I was at in those games. And yeah, so I'm going to be doing it again this year. I'll probably be sharing it more in real time as we go, since I'm, doing the podcast and stuff now. But yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. I think I've got everything. I think that's everything I got planned for tonight, Jeff. Do you have anything you want to add tonight?
No, I think you covered everything that I had going.
Okay. Well, what are you playing right now?
I'm still playing Warzone 2. Me and Coach just got a sick win the other day in the mini trios with our boy Cody. Man, we destroyed this lobby, bro. Like, anybody came anywhere near our screens, they were just dead. Just immediately, nope, you're not allowed to live.
Now, have they added the combat record to Warzone yet?
So they've added it for, I mean, they didn't add, they've had it for multiplayer, but they don't have anything for Warzone.
Right.
The only thing that you can really do, they kind of sort of have it. If you go to your calling cards, you can find anything you're looking for. So if you want to know how many kills you have, go look at your kill calling cards. If you want to know how many wins you have in Warzone, go look at your calling cards for your wins. It tells you all the stuff you want to know, but they don't have a page that breaks it all down for you yet. It's kind of weird.
Okay. Yeah, see, like I don't want to go back to Warzone 2 until I can look at my stats and like my wins and stuff like in a legitimate way, not like going through menus. So I've kind of taken a break from Warzone 2. I want them to come out with the combat records.
Yeah, me and Coach were just talking about that because It sucks to have to go into your calling cards and you have to search through like 500 calling cards to go find the Warzone wins category. We kind of memorized where it's at now, but you know, he's got I think he's at 25 now, and I just hit 10, so that's actually pretty cool.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Glad to hear you guys are doing well in Warzone 2. I'm currently playing the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, working my way through the Zelda franchise. Really having a good time. I'm about to enter the second of the 4 dungeons, so I have a ways to go in it, but I'm off tomorrow, so I'll probably be playing it throughout the day, waiting for the excellent episode of AEW Dynamite that's going to be tomorrow. But that's the plan. All right, Jeff, we'll go ahead and take us out of here then.
All right, man. Well, this has been the Game Room Podcast. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us tonight and joining us here. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Google Podcast, and anywhere else that you may catch your podcast at. You'll catch us here every Monday night at 9 p.m. Unless we have some sort of technical difficulty, which is why this is on Tuesday night here.
Wait, Jeff, but real quick, do you have the CM Punk flipping off the camera thing?
I might actually. Let's see if I got that here in the game room.
Can you run that and we can say fuck Comcast for ruining the podcast last night?
Unfortunately, I do not have the CM Punk in the game room, but I'll get him in here.
That's okay. We'll do it tomorrow on the Broken Tables podcast. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us here tonight. And if you want to join us for the wrestling podcast, that'll be the Broken Tables podcast coming up on Wednesday night. That'll be tomorrow night after AEW Dynamite. This should be an all-time great episode. Really hoping for some cool stuff tomorrow night. So we shall see. It's going to be a big night. So please join us if you can. Well, other than that, you guys have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.